Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. And today's random review is of the film V, or Vi, from 1967, directed by Konstantin Yershov and Jorge Kropotov, who are Russian, strange enough. It's only 77 minutes long, but it's a very interesting film if you are a horror fan or a historian of film. The story is based on a novel by Gogol from 1835, and it features the character V, or Vi, who is kind of the king of the underworld or lord of hell, and some people have kind of read into it that he might actually be the lord of the undead, lord of the vampires, but this is 50 or 60 years before Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. But this film's from 1967. It's short, it's only 77 minutes, and it's a simple story of a trainee priest who, while he's off duty with his friends, get involved with this old hag who later turns out to be a witch, but when he wakes up in the morning, the witch has turned into a beautiful young maiden. So he goes back to the monastery or whatever it is where they're teaching people how to be a priest. I'm not exactly sure how the system works, but then he's called back to the village because this young girl has now died and she asked for him on her deathbed, so he has to go back, and for 3 nights he has to say prayers to save the young woman's soul. So far, so bog standard. But what happens in the 3 nights are just some of the most lovely and amazing things you'll see. Again, this is a Severin release on Blu-ray. It's multi-region. And the print is absolutely exquisite. The colours are quite beautiful. A lot of it is set bound, but the artificiality kind of helps with the air of kind of unease or unnaturalness. The splashes of colour, at times it's almost as if Powell and Pressburger did a horror film. Not that it's scary or whatever, but it is beautiful. The creatures that appear on the 3 nights, there's a lot of camera trickery, but it's all in camera stuff, simple stuff, but it's really effective, and it really gives the kind of creepy tone to the film, especially the last 15-20 minutes. You could argue even at 77 minutes it's maybe 5 or 10 minutes too long, but the actual scenes of the exorcism, not the exorcism, but the saving of the girl's soul by saying prayers are just magnificent. The young priest, who is a bit of a buffoon, even does a chalk circle a la The Devil Rides Out to protect himself from demonic spirits. And then in the final night, V is summoned, even though he has to have his eyelids lifted because they're weighed down over the years and centuries in hell by iron, I think. It's just it's worth seeing if, like I said, if you're a fan of horror films or you're a fan of the history of horror films. I should say the film is very good, but the extras on this Severin release are not even better, but are excellent, because there's about a 20-minute interview with Richard Stanley, the genius or crazy film director, called Vi the Vampire, or V the Vampire. And Richard Stanley, who's also an anthropologist, gives you a wonderful history of the vampire mythos from different countries. So obviously Eastern Europe has its version, Africa has its version, the Polynesian Islands have a version of the undead coming back and sucking the life force out of people. So that's a fascinating little chat with Richard Stanley, who is always engaging and entertaining. And then we have about a 27 minute little video with John Lennon Riley called From the Woods to the Cosmos, which is about the history of Soviet fantasy and science fiction, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, this little bonus feature gave me lots of Russian films to try and track down, some of which are ridiculously expensive. But he speaks about just lots of really fantastic sounding and interesting sounding Russian science fiction films that go from the silent era up to the 80s pretty much, a lot of which I'd never heard of or was aware. So my wallet will probably send abusive emails to John Lehman Riley. So that's an excellent extra. And then you also get short silent films that are mentioned in that documentary. So you get Satan Exultant, The Queen of Spades, and The Portrait. And you also get trailer for the film V, or Vi. And that's a nice little disc. So it's you could say it's a kind of a curiosity little film, but there's images in it. I mean, you can literally just pause the last 15-20 minutes when the priest's saying his prayers and the Legion of Hell are trying to attack him. Some of the imagery is just absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure a lot of filmmakers must have seen this, because there's a lot of images that would be quite influential. So overall, the film perhaps isn't the greatest film ever made, but it's worth having, certainly this edition, for those extras. If you're a fan of Richard Stanley, it's fantastic. If you're a fan of the history of Russian science fiction fantasy films, it's absolutely fantastic. And if you like your horror films with a little bit of style and just stunning imagery, it's a beautiful print, like I said, you should try and pick up V, or Vi, because it's rather groovy. So thanks very much for watching this very quick random review on Vi. Let me know if you have seen the film and what you think of it, and hopefully we'll see you again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin saying farewell.